to get in here, but we are live, family. This is another banger from the Heavy Hitters Debate League in association with and partner with Paradigm Shift TV 314 and Worldview Wars. So today, family, as y'all can see on the thumbnail, we are going to be tackling something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people have found fault with, a lot of people that don't see it as correct teaching, and we're going to expose a lot of that tonight. I do have my brother on here, Nathaniel Hughes, which is he's a Sunni Muslim. We both have extensive knowledge in Islam when it comes down to what it is to be a Muslim, and we're going to expose the nonsense that the NOI has been teaching and preaching and putting out there for a long time. So first of all, I want to give a big shout out to my queen, Mrs. Heru Conscious. She's the first one up on there. I see you, baby. I love you. Thank you for your support. We wait on Brother Ifa, but in the meantime and in between time, I want my brother Nathaniel Hughes to get on here and go ahead, lay down the thunder, brother.
Well, my main opposition to the Nation of Islam is they believe that this guy Farad is Allah in the flesh. And just a simple reading of a short surah of the Quran, surah 112 of the Quran, it's called Surah Ikhlas, you would know right away that Allah can't be a man. Right? So, you know, aside from all the other rhetoric that Nation of Islam brothers like to spit, it basically boils down to that. They believe that the Quran is the book of Allah. They believe the same thing that the Orthodox Muslim believe, except they don't actually study the book of Allah. And when you confront them about it, they just try to chalk it up to, you know, oh, well, you think you know Arabic, or, you know, this is sent for us. Just like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was sent to the Arabs, when in actuality the Quran doesn't teach that. It teaches that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was sent to all mankind. It doesn't say he was just sent to the Arabs. So he was sent to everyone. And so that if I had the biggest issue with them, that would be my biggest issue, is that number one, they call Allah a man, you know, a begotten man on top of that. And you know, their leader, Elijah Muhammad, is not the last messenger, you know. So those are just a few things. You know, there's other caveats to their claims that are also false that we can get into later. You know, that's pretty much it for the most part. Allah is not a man. He's the one and only. There's only one like him. There's nothing else like him. He's not begotten, nor does he begot. So he can't have parents. He can't have a white mother and a black father, or a West Indian father and a white mother. He can't have any of those things. So, yeah.
Right. Because according to them, the white man is the devil.
Right.
So I want to figure out, if these guys say this nonsense, right? What percentage of them are the devil?
Well, what percentage of their God is the devil? Is the real question, right? Because his mother's a white woman.
Right, they're following the doctrine, right?
Right.
Which is crazy.
Well, they're following whatever Elijah Muhammad says. So that's also another issue. It's not as pertinent as the shirk issue, which is basically make them mushriks. They're not Muslim at all. But the other side issue is that all of their information comes from Elijah Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's not an extensive amount of manuscripts or anything. Like, we're talking about pamphlets and his book that he wrote. And, you know, they're taking those as direct quotes as if, you know, it's some kind of authority over the Quran, or he has some title over the Quran. He doesn't. So that's another problem. You know, that's cultish behavior. Like, you know, you only get your information. He has the special knowledge. Nobody else can have more knowledge than him. And then he just tells you whatever he thinks the knowledge is, and then you repeat that without question. But there's a catch. When the Nation of Islam Muslims do come across the Quran, or they do come across, for example, Malcolm X going on his pilgrimage, then suddenly they have a change of heart about what they believe in. And then it becomes painfully obvious that Elijah Muhammad is not really telling the truth. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here, bro.
Yeah. So
I'm here.
that's another side issue aside from, them actually claiming that Allah is God. And for anyone who out there who doesn't know, Surah Ikhlas is Surah is sincerity of the Quran. It's chapter 112 of the Quran. The third verse says, Allah is not begotten, nor does he begot. So that immediately removes any, he can't have parents. He can't be born of a mother. Right? And so for somebody to say Farad is Allah in the flesh, then they have to directly contradict what Allah says in the Quran. And they agree. The Nation of Islam agree with the Orthodox Muslim that the Quran is the words of Allah. So either Farad is a liar or, like the Quran can't be wrong. If we're both saying from both paradigms, I'm saying as an Orthodox Muslim, the words of the Quran are true, then Farad has to be a liar. That's the only option they have.
And that's my whole point. That's my whole point right there too, bro. I think my level of contention with the NOI is exactly the same as yours. Because I'm looking at the fact that when you look at the actual surah, if you are a Muslim, right? So you take your shahada and you declare that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger, right? So how then do we fit in Elijah Poole? How do we fit in Master Fraud and their fraudulent teachings? Because it's a lot of foolishness in what they're teaching and what they taught.
So they have some connection to Islam, and particularly I know for a fact that Elijah Poole was actually at one time he was a part of the Moors, and so they have some connections to Islam. I had a debate coming up with Brother Khalil on the 19th of September. If anybody wants to check it out on Paradigm Shift.
Oh, I will be there.
and we're going to go into the similarities in between a Morris movement that came before theirs and what they're actually doing now, or what they actually started doing in the 30s and eventually into the 60s when they became popular. And we'll go and I'll discuss some reasons why I believe that they became popular. It's not that they were spitting some divine message. They had a charismatic speaker speaking for them, and then when that went away, then the nation's numbers are kind of dwindled out. Even under Farrakhan, you got a lot of people that respect them, but there's not as many members today as there was in the 60s, in the 50s. And so part of that is because, like I said, people get wise to the message over time. And a lot of people got wise and left out of the Nation of Islam. But some people did.
Right. And you know what? I'll say this. There's groups like the NOI, just the same as a lot of your Hebrew Israelites, especially like the One West camps. What they do is they prey on the ignorant and disenfranchised. You know what I'm saying? And so it sounds good on the surface of what they're actually the rhetoric that they're actually teaching, right?
Right.
But this does not in any way reflect what is the truth of the matter. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So for instance, you get people like Farrakhan, or like I like to call him Farrakhan. But you get people like that, man, that they come out there, they're high level, charismatic speakers. They can really draw on the emotion of the people, and no matter what they say, you got people that's falling in line for this stuff.
Right.
And it's simply because a lot of these people have not done their own 1-2. They haven't done the knowledge. They haven't did the study. They haven't, you know what I'm saying? So at the
Right.
end of the day, what happens is they kind of fall in on things that they what sounds more impressionable to them, as opposed to falling in on what is actual factual. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's the same thing with the Hebrew Israelites, man. You know, these guys, they get up there and they really got people believing that they descendants of the Bible, which is crazy to me, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's almost insane that you got people that literally would think that Ham, Shem, and Japheth was was the people that responsible for populating the world. My point is that if they just took a high school level of biology, they would know that is completely false, and there's no way it could be. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Or just
So
a history class, like a history class. Or if if you're in one of these Abrahamic faiths and you think you can barely speak English that good, and then you think you're going to go into these Hebrew texts or these Arabic texts without some type of knowledge or even a lexicon to maybe look things up, you're mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's a lot of where the problem comes from, is playing with English translations of the Quran and making them fit into an argument or a claim that really doesn't go together, And so when the Orthodox Muslim hears it, when the Orthodox Muslim like me hears it, then I immediately know, because I don't know the rhetoric side that they're coming from. Right. So I don't really care about the rhetoric. Right. What does the Quran say? What does the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, say? Right. Because he's the one that brought the revelation.
Mm-hmm.
And so why would I follow a guy from the 1930s that's not mentioned anywhere in the book? Right. He's not mentioned in the Quran at all. And then I'm just supposed to believe that somehow 1400 years ago that this book was written about him. And yet, there's huge blunders that they make. For example, they call Farad, they call him Allah, right? And then in the very same breath, they call him the Mahdi, right? So the Mahdi is a figure that comes in end times during right before the Day of Judgment, right? And I'm not going to delve deep into the history behind it or the information behind it, but I will tell you that the name means the rightly guided one. Right. And so you can right away, you should be able to see the blunder. If he's Allah, who's guiding him? If he's Allah and the Mahdi, then who's guiding Allah?
Right.
It's real simple. Who can claim to be the one that guides the supreme being? And so because they have, very fragmented knowledge. Right. So another thing about the Mahdi is not mentioned in the Quran. This is something that's mentioned in the Hadith. So it's fragmented information. Oh, we got this, and we'll just put this label on there. And you got to put yourself in the time of the people in the 1930s, the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. They didn't have smartphones. They didn't have the internet. So these guys can come and tell these kind of lies, and people will believe them.
Well, right? Let me ask you this, because to Nathaniel, let me ask you this. The great Mahdi is the final Imam. He's the one that bears the true Quran. Am I correct?
Well, the Mahdi has the responsibility of together a caliphate before the return of Isa bin Maryam, right?
Right.
So it's not about him being the 12th Imam or not. We're talking about something a little bit more over just an Imam. We're talking about a Khalifa, right?
Exactly. He's a Khalifa.
Right. So basically we're talking about a Muslim ruler that comes and rules before Jesus returns, right? And
Mm-hmm.
before the battle between good and evil actually takes place. The battle I'm referring to is Armageddon. So before the end times battle start and Jesus comes to lead those battles, you have
Look,
Imam
hold
Mahdi
on.
basically.
Hold on, hold on. I'm sorry. Let me say this, Ifa. I know you watching the broadcast, bro. You have to turn on your mic and camera. You have to give the option because otherwise, I can't add you to the stage. It would not let me add you if your mic not cut on. It's okay if you cut your camera off, but you can at least leave your mic open so I can add you to the stage. All right, brother. Please continue. I'm sorry for
Right.
that.
So yeah, this figure is something separate and not quite on the same level as a prophet. While he's important, he's important to our paradigm as Orthodox Muslims. He's not to the extent that he would be a god or that he would be a prophet, right? So the Mahdi is not someone that's you know
Mhm.
that a person claims to be Allah and he's going to be the Mahdi too. This is just clear cut. Anyone who knows the hadith surrounding the Mahdi knows that somebody made a mistake. Somebody heard something about him or maybe saw something in a classical book of a hadith and they're using that label to give themselves or seemingly give themselves more power and knowledge than they actually have. And like I said, anyone who knows the Arabic from the word Mahdi, it means the guided one. You can Google this. So if the
Right,
claim
the
is that
guided one.
Farad is Allah and at the same time the Mahdi, then the question then becomes, well, who's guiding Allah? The all-knowing one. So Allah
Right.
is the all. So who's somebody's giving him directions and guiding him, and right? So it doesn't make any sense. Is my point. So you're inside of, and these things will come out in the debate as well. Inside of their rhetoric, they have these types of contradictions, right? So, for example, they'll use Surah 62, Ayah 2, where it talks about a messenger coming to the unlearned people. So we know that that's, the Orthodox Muslim know that that's the tribe of Quraysh. That's pagan, the Arab pagans who were illiterate, right? So this is a historical fact that before Islam,
Hmm.
that region of the world they was known for poetry, but they wasn't known for literacy. And we have an actual letter from Kisra of Persia actually calling them illiterate desert people, right? So when Muhammad,
Yes.
peace be upon him,
Yes.
sends a letter to Kisra to invite him to Islam, he sends a message back and tells him, stay in your desert where you belong. You're illiterate. Y'all don't even know what you know what I mean? So we know that this particular verse is talking about the Arabs at that time. It's not talking about, some mailman that's going to come later to really relay the Quran that's already here, right? So
Exactly.
what is the
Exactly.
point of having Elijah Muhammad? The Quran's already here. He doesn't have a message. So if his claim is, if the Nation of Islam's claim is that he's a messenger, well, what's his message?
Well, see,
His message
and this is
can't come
where I
from the
find
Quran.
it doesn't. It doesn't. That's my whole point. His message. If you look at it, he wrote a book called "The Message to the Black Man." But here's my thing: if you embrace true Islam, what about the rest of the world? Islam is not just for black people. I'm sorry, it's not. And if he actually took his Hajj, he would see that you find Muslims from all over the world, from different walks of life and different ethnic backgrounds.
Right, so there's 2 billion Muslims on this planet. 80% of them are not Arabs.
Exactly.
So you know what I mean? So his idea that somehow Muhammad, peace be upon him, came just to the Arabs is just factually incorrect. He's not really, and again, I will note that it's a lot of cherry picking and not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
reading things in context. You know what I mean? So they'll just cherry pick certain verses and then they see the word messenger. Aha, Elijah Muhammad's not a prophet. He's a messenger. Well, that word that you're using actually means a prophet. Right. And so when you
Exactly.
read the English translation, you're reading messenger, but when you read in the Arabic, it says Rasulan, Rasul, which means
Rasul,
he's a prophet.
Rasul.
Right.
Yeah,
So it
Rasul.
means he's a prophet. That's why one of the names of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is Rasulullah, right? The Prophet of Allah.
That's right.
Right. So I mean, it's not.
You recite that in your prayer.
Thank you. You absolutely do. Aside from sending blessings on the Prophet Muhammad and his family, peace be upon him. Right. So aside from that,
absolutely.
Right. So aside from that, like there's no, like I said, there's no mention of Farad. There's no mention of Elijah or any black nation, or you know what I mean? There's no mention of that in the Quran or in the Hadith. And in this case, I know the guy I'm debating doesn't really deal with a lot of Hadith, but he deals with the Quran. And so I'm gonna stick with the basics. I'm not gonna try to get too complicated, but that sort of ikhlas is a head buster, bro. That verse 3 where it says Allah is not begotten, nor does he begot. That's the end discussion. Because begotten means that you have parents, right? And Farad has parents. So whatever color his parents is, whatever race he is, doesn't matter. The fact that he has parents, he cannot be God.
Exactly. And see, brother, I want to point this out. I've been watching this, the build up on this from the beginning. I remember when you called him out. You get what I'm saying? And right now I can tell you, based on the responses I see, I think you about to wash over.
Yeah, he's cooked. Yeah.
He's definitely cooked.
Yeah, I mean, bro. Well, we had a discussion before, and he was on the ropes in the discussion. They took a poll, and if it was a debate, I would have won. But he was on the ropes in that debate because he couldn't get around that particular part. And I made a point to, because I had watched another brother do a presentation on him, and he kind of went in on Farad and the whole scam, right? And so I told him, I said, since this is just a peaceful discussion, I'm not going to insult your mans like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed away from, and I told him because it's not a debate, I kind of stayed away from that. But there's information out about Farad that he was in prison, right? He had a job, right? He went to jail for selling drugs. Like there's things out there about Farad that a person can say, oh, that comes from the FBI and I don't trust it. But they got fingerprints, they got arrest warrants, they got mugshots. What are we supposed to do with all of that information? We're just supposed to say, oh, the white devil is just trying to ruin, and nobody's really using that information against the Nation of Islam because nobody really takes the Nation of Islam as a threat. Nobody on the world stage is talking about them.
They're not.
Who are they talking about?
Daniel, I want to add something because like I know, we're not talking about the state here. We're talking about the FBI. When the FBI drop a case on you, they've already been building up on that case for I don't know how long. They got all the evidence they need to convict you. In some cases, they lose, but that's very, very rare.
Well, they were doing an investigation mainly on Malcolm. So the investigations really started around the 50s, I think.
Yes,
the late 40s, early 50s. And at that time, I think is when I'm not really sure what exact year.
They was trying to hit Malcolm with conspiracy and everything.
Yeah, well, so that's another point that I want to bring up. He was a real threat to the system. Okay, when I was talking earlier about, really their growth is not due to what Elijah Muhammad was teaching. It was actually to the charismatic speaking of Malcolm X. Right? And so Malcolm X was such a threat to them leaving. They had him killed. They unalived him. Right? And so what are we talking about? Right? It's not even up for discussion. Like whatever information that he had, they wanted him to be quiet. And when I'm saying they, I don't mean the feds.
Right,
right?
right.
So I
No,
don't mean
it was his
to
own
say
people.
it was the
It
NOI,
was his
the
own
FOI
people.
that assisted in unaliving Malcolm X. It was the NOI. It was Elijah Poole, Elijah Muhammad that was doing back alley deals with the KKK. The same people that was hanging us from poplar trees, right? And now we doing deals with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And while all of this is happening at the same time, you know, he's got a due system set up. People are paying to change their names, so you know people are paying to get their ex, right? So when you really start to look at it, it's more of a pyramid scheme than it is a religion, right? So you have Elijah Muhammad sitting at the top, and he's getting fed in all these different funds, and you know, newspaper funds and bean pie funds, and his book sales, and everybody else is kind of just, you know, living on. There's even reports of them, you know, having to meet quotas on selling newspapers. So if a brother sold newspapers, if he didn't sell all the newspapers, he had to buy those leftover newspapers out of
Right,
his own
right.
pocket, right? So what is that?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And so
And
go ahead, brother.
let's not forget about the bean pies. You know what I'm saying? A lot of them brothers end up buying a lot of them bean pies themselves.
Thank you.
And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The bean pies were delicious. They were good. I purchased a lot of them. I will say that. and would even take their little pamphlet that they give you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But what I'm saying is these guys, they end up having to buy their own basically merchandise and still give to something that should be given to them.
Right. Well,
I
I
don't,
mean,
I don't,
okay, so in
I
the
mean,
context of everything that's going on, this man, Elijah Poole, is going around, he's got them selling newspapers, right? But now if you
mm,
pay attention to his literature and his rhetoric, he tells them at the same time that he built a spaceship in 1929, right? Called the
mm-hmm,
Mother Wheel, that nobody knows about. Now, this is before, you know, the supposed walk on the moon, before there was a rocket ship that went into space, before it was any Apollos or anything. This is 1929.
right,
And he supposedly launched this Mother Wheel that was worth $15 billion in gold. Well, why are they selling newspapers if the richest man in the world at that time, you know, $15 billion, he'd have been the richest man in the world.
right. And after all, he learned from God himself, right?
Thank you. So why do we
We gonna
need
get down
people
to that.
to meet quotas on selling newspapers and bean pies if we have $15 billion in gold in a mother wheel nobody's ever seen? So, you know, a lot of their claim against Muslims like me, Orthodox Muslims, is they'll say, oh, I believe in a spook, right? So I believe that Allah is unseen. So they'll say that I believe in a spook. Well, I contrast that and say that you believe in a spook. It's called the mother wheel, right? Nobody's ever actually
Right,
seen it, right? Nobody
right.
knows about it taking off. And with all of the surveillance going on around the world with satellites and everything else, nobody would have seen it yet. So it's just not making sense. And it's not a small ship. Like, it's like a half a mile in diameter or something like that. Like, it's not even,
Well,
you know what I mean?
yeah. It's a half a mile in diameter, but then it's also how many miles in as far as the circumference of it?
I don't know exactly how many miles it is, but this is supposed to be a huge ship. And it has other,
I think it's like 4 miles, bro. So
yeah, and it
you're
has
talking
other,
about something that would show up in our sky the size of a EF5 tornado. This is huge.
right.
Yet not one space agency across the world has ever seen it.
Well, this is something that would have been larger than the International Space Station that you can see with a telescope from your
Exactly.
backyard.
And
So
we can
imagine
see
something that
the
large shooting across the moon or shooting anywhere near NORAD or any type of sophisticated radar system somebody would know about. But
right.
nobody's
We
seen
can
it,
see
right?
That's what I'm saying. We could see the International Space System. We could see the International Space Station from our own
right.
backyard,
And
like you
so,
said.
I'm with the spookism claim. If we're gonna claim that, if he's gonna claim that Allah is a spook somehow, then you have to explain this mother will no one's ever seen. And behind that, why is the richest man in the world making people sell newspapers that they can't afford while they live in the ghetto? And he has $15 billion in gold to buy spaceships. And this is in 1929, supposedly. This is before, the Nation of Islam is really established.
Yeah.
So how's that work?
That's the part that get me. That's the part that get me right there, bro. If they had, because at that time he probably would have been the richest man in the world.
$15 billion, he would have had to have been in 1929.
Listen, $15 billion was like triple that back
right.
then.
You remember, I think there was Elon Musk was the first billionaire or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen in that time. Was Elon Musk even born then? Right. And so that doesn't happen in that time. So if he has $15 billion in gold, I think it's like 22,000 metric tons. Like, just think about that. Where was he storing all this gold at? And then meanwhile, the FBI is watching him.
Yeah.
So he's fresh out of. So we're talking about Farad here. He's fresh out of prison from San Quentin. He gets locked up in 1926, and by 1929, he has a spaceship taking off in Japan that's worth $15 billion in gold, that's flying around, orbiting the Earth, that nobody knows anything about.
And you know what? This is what I'm going to do too, since you mentioned this again, because this is federal that we're dealing with, right?
Right.
I'm going to log on to my Pacer account, and I'm going to pull up the actual information that they have, that the feds have, dealing with this fraud and the whole NOI nonsense. And I'm going to present that. I guarantee you I am, and it's going to leave a lot of people hurt. You know what I'm saying? Because you telling me that this man had all this gold, which would have made him the richest man in the world. He claims to have built a mother wheel that travels to and from, right?
Yeah, and that's not all about that mother wheel. Like, there's other things that are just, if something it sounds too good to be true, it's probably because it's not true.
Well, he claims that our ancestors is on this mother wheel as well.
So I mean,
so I think he's mixing Dr. Pork's teachings with it. And I said correctly, not the York, Dr. Pork.
Right.
The dude is terrible, man. The whole walking movement is the same bullshit too.
But I'm lacks common sense. Anybody that, if like immediately, like I said, I didn't know any of this deep information about the Nation of Islam until I met Khalil Shabazz. And I met him. He was doing a presentation on paradigm shift, and I commented. So he said, "Why don't you come on and debate me then?" And that's how I got on the channel. That's how I got on the platform.
I remember that.
And after that, after that discussion, we wanted to do another debate. And I told him, if we do another debate, brother, I'm not going to be friendly with you. Because, at this point, you in error, and like you're ignoring it. So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Not so much just to bash him, but the information need to get out. certain information needs to get out about some of these cults, especially in our community. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people, you know, a lot of people disagree with Islam as a religion for black people. I don't view Islam as a religion for any particular color or race of people. I believe Islam is for all mankind, and I don't think it should be copied and repackaged in some kind of black nationalist movement. If you want to have a black nationalist movement, that's fine, have one. You know, you know that it's your prerogative to do so, but you don't have to hijack a religion. And this particular brother likes to call other people copycats. And so this is another thing that's just hilarious to me, that you know everything the IUIC does, they're copycatting off of Elijah Muhammad, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, well, everything Elijah Muhammad is saying, he copied from the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Well, he made a claim earlier today, right? He made a claim earlier today that he was literally he made a claim earlier today that let me quote him exactly, bro, because I don't want to misquote this brother at all. You know what I mean? Because I believe in fair scholarship. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the brother has said, hold on, Ifa trying to get on. I don't know. Ifa been trying to get on for a minute. But it's saying that he's not connecting his microphone and camera.
But if he's on a PC, he might have to do that.
If you're on the PC, if you're on the PC or your phone, bro, allow your camera and mic. You can always cut it off once you in.
Yeah, you can clip your mic and you can't.
Your microphone is most important.
If he's on his phone, he has to go to his permissions for the app that he's using.
You gotta allow it. You gotta allow them to
Right.
utilize your mic and camera. That way you get the option to use both.
Right.
And you could always restrict the camera. You can just come in with your microphone blazing.
Right. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this debate after the all the other events that we got going on. I haven't really started. I've started writing down chin check questions. But I haven't really I haven't really torn down anything or rebuilt anything yet. So my chin check questions are. That's going to be a great part of the debate. If you don't see anything else, make sure you're there to see that chin check session. So
absolutely. Hey, you know what? This is one of the reasons why I thought of you as my tandem partner. You know what I'm saying? I really thought of you because I look at your methodology and it's a lot like mine. You know what I mean? It's almost like a mirror. Because before I debate anyone, I debate myself. I don't begin my research, with what I believe to be true. I want to know what the overall consensus is, and then I try to challenge that. And I come with several different angles to try to challenge that. Then, therefore, when it's not that I can't accept what the actual consensus is, because obviously I'm going to go with the consensus, but I could build my own thesis around it based upon what I've discovered. And so now I got a lot of dogs in this fight because I'm looking at different arguments from different levels. You get what I'm saying? And then my Q&A is always set up based upon everything we discussed during this debate. I'm gonna hold you to what you said. You made it in your argument. Why should I not hold you to it? Right.
There you go. Right. Exactly. So that's pretty much my game plan. Only in this, and I'll be honest, in this particular debate, and it's not really going to be difficult because we have something in common, the Quran. So because we have something in common, I'm going to nail his feet to the floor. He's going to have to deal with the Book of Allah, and if you can't explain it from there, then that's where your belief comes from. So what are you? If you're getting that wrong, and if you're misunderstanding that, now all of the other little things are really just bonuses to me, like the mother wheel and the origin of Farad,
Oh
and
yeah,
you know what I mean. All of his. I think he has over 50 aliases. Like, why does Allah need aliases? Who's he hiding from? Like he's hiding his name from people.
right.
Like, yeah. So those are other little things that can be useful depending on how far we go off into this quote unquote spookism that he likes to talk about. But other than that, like, yeah, I really plan to just hold his feet to the fire on that Quran. He really can't run from it. It's hard to, if you're claiming you're Muslim, you either believe this or you don't. So Islam is not one of those religions where you can, it's not a lot of wiggle room in the core doctrine. You know what I mean? So we can as Muslims, we can disagree on a lot of different things. How you hold your hands in prayer, how you might say this or that. There's a whole lot of things we can disagree on. But core doctrine, Tawheed, the oneness of God, Muhammad, peace be upon him, being the final messenger, those are things that, typically we don't disagree about. I don't care what school of thought you are. Even, Sunni, of course, is the biggest sect of Islam. And then you have Shia, and they disagree on a lot of things, but neither one of them will disagree that Allah is one God. None of them will say that Allah is a man.
Well, that is what Allah means. Let's do the translation. Allah means the God. It's one God. There's no God outside of that God. And that's what you bear witness to. You bearing testimony to, and you're bearing testimony to his last and final messenger, which is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So where these guys get off track, and where they mess up, because like you pointed out in the surah, right? Allah is not begotten, nor is he begot. Right?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
So
he
where do they
doesn't
get
begot,
this
nor is he
business?
begot.
Exactly. So where do they get this business that this fraud, Muhammad, this white boy that they call master, is God?
Well, the claim comes directly from Elijah Poole, comes from Elijah Muhammad. So outside of him, outside of him, there's no other real source of.
This is my point. This is my point of bringing this up, brother. You are gonna absolutely kill this guy with the Quran.
Well, that's his.
Anytime you step outside the Quran, you're wrong. You step outside the Quran, it becomes shirk, right?
Right. Well, it depends on the instance. So you can disbelieve in something. For example, the Quran says that hamr or alcohol is forbidden. Right? So you might have a brother say, well, I can drink it as long as I don't get drunk. Well, that's disbelief. So he hasn't committed shirk because he hasn't worshipped another god besides Allah, but he has committed kufr akbar because he's basically denying something that Allah said. Right? Now, shirk is where you worship something that is not Allah. So like if you say, for example, this white man is God, and you worship him, that's shirk, and that sin will not be forgiven. You know what I mean?
Now, notice what you just said. It will not be forgiven. So imagine all these black folks. Imagine all these black folks in Mos Miriam, the NOI, right?
Right.
They're all committing shirk.
Right.
Come on,
And
man.
okay, so there's a portion of and this goes into the hadith a little bit about the day of judgment, right? So all human beings sin, right? But if you die on
Hmm.
that sin, if you die on that particular sin of shirk, it cannot be forgiven. So the other sins that you commit,
Hmm.
Allah will forgive those sins. He can forgive those even at the day of judgment, right? So he can forgive those sins, no matter how many of them it is. But if it's shirk, he will not. It's not that he can't. He will not forgive it,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Because at that point, you're passed away. Your soul has been removed from your body, and now it's resurrection, and you can't go back and fix. And this is another thing that we might get into. They don't believe that they're going to be punished in the afterlife. Like, so a
Hmm.
portion of the NOI don't even believe, and so that's going to be pretty hard for him to deal with surahs like Surah Fusilat, where it talks about the actual judgment and what takes place during the judgment, right?
Yeah,
There's a verse. There's a
because the I'm sorry,
go
bro. I'm sorry. I, you just brought
go
something to
go ahead.
mind because the Quran speaks about the hereafter, right?
Right,
That means, in my interpretation of that, our afterlife experience would be like much like it is here, the hereafter. Now, your judgment may be that your life is 10 times harder than what you experienced in this lifetime, based upon what you did in that past life. You get what I'm saying?
right. Well, there's vivid descriptions of and that's another disadvantage for the Nation of Islam. So when I became Muslim, those are the types of things that I was reading about, right? So I
Hmm.
learned about Orthodox Islam from the beginning. I read the Quran. The brother that I borrowed the Quran from and read was an Orthodox Muslim. So he taught me, how to pray and what I mean, how to make wudu and all types of different things. And then I got in contact with the local masjid of Sunni
Right.
Muslims, right? And so I learned Islam from a different perspective. I didn't learn Islam that's a race version of Islam. So I learned some things out of classical books about the Day of Judgment, right? And so these
Right.
these things, that they claim are allegorical, they're not allegorical at all. And it's vivid descriptions of what will take place and how, right?
Good night, brothers. How
Right.
are you?
Right. Because
Brother Jose,
let
what's
me say
going
this.
on, man?
Let me say this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Jose, let me say this real quick, and let me introduce you real fast. Hold on 1 second, bro. Let me say this. I come out of a Sunni Muslim, Orthodox Sunni Muslim uh, upbringing, and I will tell you this. In fact, I come from Masjid Al Qaed, if you want to pronounce it that way. But the truth is, uh, I knew something was wrong with the NOI right away. It was nothing that I could be part of, nothing, because what they were doing was haram to me. There was shirk. There was a lot of things that was wrong. You know what I mean? You don't give that much praise to any man. Period.
No,
Your most highest praise should be to Allah, right?
right.
So at the end of the day, I found a big problem with that. But I don't want to delay. I want to introduce my my brother, my ace boom, my ace boom Kaum, Mr. Jose Francis. This Uncle Jose, listen, he ain't no joke. He an up and coming debater, and I promise
Yeah.
y'all, watch him over the next year. This brother gonna be some trouble for a lot of people because he's
Thank you
around the
so much.
right people and he's learning a lot of good things.
Yes,
Peace
sir.
and love, brother. What's up?
Now, I'm gonna say this to be honest. I'm kind of in the middle of the argument because I'm not a Muslim, so I'm kind of in the middle of the argument in terms of saying I don't mess with Islam because I'm just not religious. But I understand the brother's point of view. We have to point out, number one, he is not a member of the Nation of Islam under Louis Farrakhan. And despite all of their flaws, they have done some good things in cleaning up some black men and getting them off the streets and giving them something positive to do.
That's true.
So anyone who does that, I can respect that. I can give them a certain level of pass once they're doing that and once they're showing you how to be a positive black man. And I personally agree with the idea that we are all deities. I know you can't agree with that based on your teaching, but I don't have a problem with that. I really don't have a problem with that understanding. But as a person who's blackity black, I don't mess with Islam because I don't think it's something that is our culture. It was something that was forced upon us like Christianity. But anyone who is taking it seriously like you and respects it, what can I tell you? Same thing I have to say about my brother Khalil Shabazz. It's not a costume he's wearing. So you got to respect that it's not a costume.
Oh no! Listen, make no mistake. Make no
Agree or
mistake. I
disagree?
I actually like Brother Khalil.
Me too.
I actually think he's a good brother, and he means well.
But you know what? You know what gets me, Nathaniel? You want to be mad at the brother when you look in the brother's eyes and you see the sincerity. You can't be mad at him because you know you're not faking it. You're not one of those people.
He believes what he's saying, and he'll die on it. He'll die on the hill now.
But you gotta respect that, though, Nathaniel.
He will.
Yeah. I'm not saying I have a lack of respect for him. I watch all the brothers' lives. You know, I support him just like I support other black channels. But you know, we just have a disagreement. We just have a disagreement about how he practices Islam.
And you know what?
And this particular topic is a great topic for him.
Listen, I'll tell you this. This will make a great debate. This will make a wonderful debate. And at the end of the day, you guys are still going to be brothers.
Yes.
But here's the thing. He's going to be hard pressed to prove that claim. He's going to be very hard pressed.
Okay, so hold on. Let me throw something up here. Let me do something. Let me see if I can put this comment on the screen. My wife asked a question. She says, "What's the difference between all of them Muslims, though? Is it the ideology that separates them, or what?" So, honey, the best way to tell you this is that you have the Orthodox traditional way of Islam, right? And then you have different sects of Islam. So you might have Sufism. You might have the twirling dervishes is another you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These are all Muslims. I'm just saying, like, we can point out the actual sects of Islam, but what differs is it has a lot to do with the ideology, but what's central is the same. The Quran is central, and we all take a shahada.
Right.
That's what.
So we'll have differences in matter of fiqh, or you know, we might have differences in opinion on different rulings, or it may even be a disagreement about a certain Sahaba. Right. In the case of the Shiites, for example, there are certain. So, you know, oftentimes the Shia are called something called the Rafida, which is a rejectionist. So they reject certain of the Sahaba that the Salafi Muslim or the fundamentalist Muslim or Orthodox Muslim would never reject. Right. So that's not a difference. That's not an actual difference in ideology. It's just a difference of opinion about a particular person. Right. And so we still all believe that Allah is one God, and, you know, and we believe that Muhammad is his messenger. We just have a difference of opinion on a matter of fiqh, something else that's not quite as important as a person who says they're a Muslim and then worships a man, right? Which is a much more serious Okay, so try to imagine shirk is like the number one sin, right? And so out of all of these sects, you got them all trying not to participate in that particular activity. Now, there are some that actually do it, right? And of course, mainstream Islam doesn't accept them as Muslims, right? But in all, what we're talking about is deviation from the original path of Muhammad. So you have these different sects and they all do different things where, like, I might see a person pray. They might, there's some brothers that pray. They put a little piece of wood down on the ground. Right. And so when I ask them about it, which hadith did they get that from? That's a matter of fact. We're still all praying to the same God. They just, that particular action that they're doing is different. Right. You have some brothers who come from a different school of thought. Maliki, for example, they might hold their hands down when they pray instead of putting them over their chest. Right. So they're still praying to one God, but it's just a matter of a ruling that they believe to be different. But it doesn't change the core ideology or doctrine of the religion. The NOI is actually changing the core doctrine and then still saying that they're Muslims. They're literally changing, the belief in one God. And God can't be a man, or God is unseen. Those types of things that other Muslims would never disagree on, they actually agree that no, he came in the form of a man. And it's a little white man too. He's not even that big. He's like 5'7". He weighs 126 pounds. You know what I mean? It's not even like a big man like it's a little old tiny man.
But here's the question I always have after studying: why do Muslims, Jews, and Christians have a beef? Because I don't think that they should. Now, maybe
what do you mean by beef?
They how should I say it? They have, some people are radical enough to kill other people based on, or unalive other people based on being Christian or based on being Jewish.
Okay, so I can only I can only speak on the Islamic side. I mean, but no. Okay, so we can discuss a little bit of history real quick, right? So a lot of the churches in the Holy Land are there because of Muslims, right? And that might sound odd to some people, but it was Muslims that protected those places, right? So for example, when Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu went and conquered Jerusalem, right? So this is still in the 7th century. He goes and conquers Jerusalem. He gets there and he talks to the Christian king there and finds out that there's no Jews. So he asks him, what happened to the Jews that were here in Jerusalem? And the man told him, we executed them, we killed them, or we ran them, we exiled them. Right? So Omar has an envoy sent back to Medina to bring Jewish families back to Jerusalem. Right? And so then the man asked Omar, he says, well, why don't we go into the church and pray? So Omar told him, no, I'm not going to pray in your church. If I pray in your church, then the Muslims will say this is the first place I came and prayed, and they'll turn your church into a masjid. So he found a place next to the church, right? The Church of the Holy Sepulchre. He found a place next to the church. That's where Masjid al-Aqsa came from in Jerusalem, right? Because that's the place that Umar came and prayed with this Christian king. So if you look at the history, we have a long history between the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jews, especially after the 7th century. There's a long history of peacefulness between the two. This recent, we've had wars with each other, not so much the Jews, right? But, between the Christians and the Crusades, right? Salahuddin, yes. Right. So we've had, but even in those times, it was different. Like, okay, so they may have been at war with each other, but they weren't afraid to say the word of the truth about each other. So you will find that a lot of these Christian soldiers will have good things to say about Salahuddin, right? And Salahuddin will have good things to say about them. In fact, I think the leper king Baldwin, he actually sends his physicians to him when he realizes he's sick. Now they're in war with each other. And then Salahuddin turns around and sends his physician. So there's recently, there's this sense that, we're all just killing each other up. And I will admit there are groups that are doing just that. But here's what gets me mad.
None of those two groups of people that you see fighting for that country technically are actually the original people, especially the ones on the other side who came in there and were given that country by the United States and Britain after they were persecuted in their own country. They are not the original people. And some of those other
Well,
people
yeah, I
are not
agree
the
with
original.
I agree with you.
So what are they fighting for? They're fighting for something that none of
Well,
them,
I mean,
not
okay,
their heritage.
so culturally, what have you known those particular people to do?
But once again,
Just
what do you
look
fight?
at the last 6 centuries in the West.
Right.
Them the same people you talking about wiped out Indians, right? Supposed to Native
Absolutely correct.
Americans, right? So,
But I'll say the same thing to anyone who looks like me who's a Muslim or Christian. That is not originally our culture. That was something that was forced upon us in a specific way. And there is an argument, fair enough, when you talk about Christianity, that the Ethiopian Christianity was not the same as the European Christianity. That's a fact. So I
right.
can make that addendum that it was different. I can also make the argument, to be fair, that when you look into the Bible, a lot of things that you see Christians practice, Jesus didn't do. I could say the same thing about Muslims and all these other people who believe in the books. They don't observe what their Messiah or their God told them to do. 3/4 of them and more don't do that. So I can be fair in saying that. But at the end
Well,
of the day,
it depends on which Muslims you say that to. So,
no, I'm just saying, when you talk about Christians, pretty much damn near all of them don't follow what Jesus said in the book. Because when you follow what Jesus said in the book, you don't fight over a book. Because the first thing Jesus told all these so-called learned people, he was 12 years old, according to the book, whether he existed or not, was, what are you fighting over? You know, and as he got older, he called them hypocrites. He called them vipers. He said, you must have this in your heart and not on the scroll. So Jesus would not have been a Bible thumper. So I don't understand where Bible thumping comes in when you say you love Jesus. I don't understand where fighting Jews comes in when you say you love the prophet.
well,
According to you, because
Luke
before Muhammad
19.
loved Jews, he didn't have a problem with Jews. He did not. And it tells you that. He respected their book. So why don't modern Muslims follow that and respect the book?
A
He's
lot of
more
modern
wicked.
modern Muslims do. You got to remember, it's over 2 billion Muslims on the planet.
So do you respect the Torah?
Yes, I
Okay.
actually believe in the Torah.
All right, but you might be one or two, and those 2
No,
billion
no,
who
no. Okay, so let me break it down to you like this. In order for me to be a Muslim, I have to believe in those divine revelations.
all of them.
Right. So I have to believe, basically, I have to believe that Allah did send those revelations, the Torah, the Injil, the Zabura, and the Quran. He sent those revelations. Now, as a matter of argument, what those modern day books contain, I can argue that that's not exactly what was revealed, right? So there are some things, and you remember this from my debate a couple weeks ago.
And I think
When
that's a fair argument. I
Okay,
would
so
say
what
that's a fair
basically
argument
what
for
I'm
both sides.
telling you, the Quran is an ultimate arbiter, right? So it's pretty much details what I can believe in those scriptures and what I can't. You
Okay.
understand what I'm saying? So when I say that the Quran is the supreme authority or ultimate arbiter, that's pretty much what I'm saying. So the author of the Quran knows that these things have been changed and is editing them in the Quran at the same time. So while it's being revealed, he's editing those things at the same time.
But I can make the same argument as a non-believer that the Quran has been touched and the Quran has been changed.
Yeah, but you
And
have to
I don't think that
substantiate.
I would be wrong.
You'll have to substantiate that claim. You can make it, but you'll have to substantiate that claim.
But then that means I would have to know the language and I would have to have a manuscript to
You
say
not necessarily.
that.
Listen,
I would
brother.
have to
There
have
are
a
people that
manuscript that
argue
said,
that. There are people that argue that.
but where's the
There
manuscript
are
to say that?
there are people that argue that, but the problem is another lack of understanding of how the Quran was revealed.
But
So
where's the manuscripts of the Quran to even compare it to
there's
modern
over
Quran?
250,000 manuscripts of the Quran.
Okay, well,
Exactly.
I can't argue.
And
I can't argue that.
hold on. Uncle Jose, Uncle Jose,
Yes,
I
sir.
would advise you to be very, brother.
No. Bro,
It's
listen.
it's an honest question, and
It's
I
an
don't know
honest
enough
question,
about
bro.
the manuscripts to be able to say that. I can say
Now, I
that
can
the
hear
Dead
you.
Sea Scrolls.
I
I
can
can
hear
say
you,
that the
brother.
Dead Sea Scrolls disagree with the Bible, and they definitely have some discrepancies. I can say that.
Okay, well, so that's a different argument that they're making. Like, there's a lot of variations. Most of the variations in the manuscripts in the Bible are like erasures, maybe some misspelling, some messed up genealogies. But there are parts of the Bible that they added in the manuscripts. You know what I mean? So there's things that like the manuscripts are so badly damaged, and then you have a scribe coming back later adding something to it. For example, the story of the adulterous woman, that's added later to the manuscripts. It doesn't exist, right? The name Jehovah doesn't really exist, right? That's something that white
Very
European scribes added to the manuscript later when they added the words Adonai. They added the word Adonai to the acronym for Yahweh, right? And then they ended up making the word Jehovah. And it's mentioned,
that,
I
but
think in the King James Bible it's mentioned 7 times.
that's Yiddish though. That's not pure Hebrew.
No. So listen,
That's a reconstruction.
what they did was they took the Greek and they saw the acronym. So the original scribes who wrote the manuscripts in Greek, they would not write the word Yahweh. So at the time, there's a Jewish law or a Hebrew law that they wouldn't speak the name Yahweh or they wouldn't write it because of whatever condition they were conquered or whatever condition they were in. We can go into that in another discussion, right? But they purposely marked the word Yahweh by using YHWH, right?
Okay.
And so when the European scribes came later and saw the word Adonai and that acronym for Yahweh, they mixed the Greek with the Hebrew and came up with the word Jehovah, which we all know is spelt with a letter J, right? So the letter J doesn't really exist until I think 1527.
Yes.
Right? And so we know that this is a later addition by different scribes, and it's in the Bible to this day. I think it's in the King James version of the Bible 7 times. I think it's in the Jehovah's Witness Bible over 2,000 times.
Of course.
Right? But it's a false name. It's not really a name of God at all. So
Well,
that's just an example of the manuscripts proving that there's some variations and some huge blunders, right?
well, I
So
can,
they,
I can understand that because a lot of times when you deal with translating, even with Kemet, they take a lot of liberties when they're doing translations. A lot of times.
but you can access them. Codex
Absolutely.
Vaticanus, Codex Sinaiticus. You can actually access those and translate them. You can actually use a lexicon and everything to translate them and find. There's one in Codex Vaticanus where a scribe writes that he writes to another scribe calling him a fool and tells him to leave the original reading of the text. So in
Okay.
Codex Vaticanus, one of the Bible's oldest manuscripts for the New Testament, I think it's for the book of Hebrews, right? You have one scribe writing to another scribe calling him a fool and telling him to leave the original text.
Okay, well, fair enough. But once again, I'm the middle guy here, so I'm not. I'm the middle guy here, so I have beef with everybody when it comes to religion. So you know, I'm not gonna say one is touched and one is untouched because I believe all of them were touched and all of them were definitely changed from the original meaning. That's my belief. If you ask me to prove that, maybe I wouldn't be able to so much prove that at this point in time. But I think if I study, I could probably prove that. But once again, I'm the middle guy here. I'm not a real on either side of the argument. To be
Well, let me
intellectually
just say
honest, I'm just not.
from my perspective, the way I look at all the brothers over there at the shift and here on the panel tonight, everybody got their own way. You know what I mean? It's no compulsion of religion. I can't make you or any other person change their mind. You know what I mean? That's a matter of the heart that I can't change. I can't open up your chest and say what's in your heart. You know what I mean? Not without killing you. So
And that's fair.
You know.
That's fair.
And so what I often say, to you be your religion and to be mine. You know, whatever religion you choose to follow, that's between you and God. You know, I really don't got time to be figuring out whether you going to
And that's
heaven or hell when I'm trying to get to heaven myself. You know what I mean?
and that's a beautiful thing. And I think this is going to be a wonderful debate. I
Well,
think
you
you
know
guys are going
what?
to have a wonderful, passionate, and spirited debate. But
Let
I
me
need to
say.
be
Let me
careful.
say this. I think
Yes,
that.
sir.
Listen. I think. Listen. This is why I get along with Nathaniel so much, man.
Well,
Because
Nathaniel fell off
the
just now. You know,
brother. Oh shit.
he
He
fell
probably
off.
come right
I don't
back.
know what happened. Okay.
He probably gonna come right back. But I tell you this. The brother actually. Hold on. Let me do this. The brother actually. He has a. He has a really pure heart, bro. And
I agree.
he's not trying to push his ideology on anyone. It's just that he's there if anybody wants to challenge his ideology. You get what I'm saying? And that's what I like about it.
Yeah, man.
We come
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
same place. I'm coming from the same place he came from. You know, I was a Sunni Muslim for many years, almost a decade, bro. And what this is why I know, this is why we call it out the NOI today. Because what they're practicing is not really Islam. It's an Americanized I ain't gonna even call it nonsense. It's just Americanized. It's Americanized new form of religion.
I'll say this.
That's
I was
yeah.
shocked and surprised to even know that they actually practice Islam. I didn't even know that. I didn't even
The
realize that.
NOI.
I didn't even realize that they actually, from the beginning, was pushing the Quran. I didn't
Oh,
even know that. I thought that was
let me
something that happened later.
let me add Nate
I
back.
didn't know that. Paul me didn't even know that. I didn't know
Hey,
that they
bro,
were
I'm
doing
about,
that.
I'm about to go grab my phone charger real quick. I'll be right back, bro. I'm gonna put
I
y'all
didn't
on mute.
even
I'm gonna
know
go
that.
grab my charger.
That's to
Okay,
tell you
bro.
how uninformed I was. I didn't even know that. That they were really pushing this belief in the Quran from the beginning from the inception of the group. I didn't know that.
Mm.
I thought they added that later. So
No,
I
listen.
a lot of shock.
Let me say this. Let me say this. The NOI, the NOI is nothing more than a black nationalist group that has masked themselves behind the identity of being a Muslim. They're not really Muslims, man. They're not real Muslims. I can prove that. I can
Well,
prove
that's
it.
an argument. Well, that's an argument
And
that
this is one of the reasons why they killed Malcolm, bro. Malcolm
that's
found out the truth when he took his Hajj.
you do know you do know that they found out at some point during that whole beef that the FBI was writing letters back and forth, right? They did it with the Black Panthers and other black groups too. They were writing letters back and forth to try to turn them against each other. You know that was a real thing back then, right? So some of those
Of
letters
course.
and things that you're seeing didn't come from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Malcolm X. They were planting letters. If you watch the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, they were doing that during that time. They were writing letters back and forth between these groups to try to get them to turn against each other. And they found out and they started partnering up. This is where the idea of these quote unquote gangs come from. These were
Yeah,
people who
but
used to
I
protect
get
the
what you're
community.
saying, bro.
So we have to
That
keep that in
misses the mark
consideration.
of what
That
we're
happened.
talking about.
Yeah, but that happened though. So some of the things that we're seeing in public
I
now
get
are
that. I
about
get that.
the
But that misses the mark, bro. That
right. But
misses
we
the
have to
mark of
keep
what I'm
paying
talking about. As far as a
attention.
real true Muslim, these guys are not real Muslims, bro. That's the whole point I'm making.
That's an argument to be made
This shows.
if you are religious and you're a Muslim. That's an argument for someone who's a Muslim to make to say whether they're Muslim or not. That's not my argument. I can't make that argument in all honesty because I am not a Muslim.
No,
So it'll be a hypocritical argument for me to
no, I
make.
get.
So I'm not going to judge that because I don't think I should.
No,
For me, as a non-Muslim.
I get that. I get that, bro. But listen. That's what the show is about. We exposing the NOI right now because they're not real Muslims. What they are is a black nationalist group that has hid behind the identity of what a Muslim is. Although they
Well,
don't even practice the real pillars of Islam.
once
You know what I'm
again,
saying? So at the end of the day,
but once again, that's for Brother Nathaniel and other Orthodox Muslims to have that argument with them. Once I see
Oh,
that they're
I
making
agree.
an attempt, once I see them making an attempt to do some good for black people, I'm not gonna be too hard on them. Yes, they have some things that sound
listen,
outlandish and crazy.
we're not going to take we're not going to take anything away from what they have done for the community. That's not my
Yes,
point.
No, absolutely not.
That's not the
This
point of
is
this discussion.
this is a matter of a difference in opinion of theology
and it's a
between
fair
me
argument too.
and
But it's a fair
me
argument.
and an NOI brother that I've an NOI minister that I've come to like. You know what I
But it's a
mean?
fair argument too, Nathaniel. It's a very fair argument for Orthodox Muslim to have with a member of the NOI.
Exactly.
It's a very fair argument.
Exactly.
It is, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this argument ends.
I'm a former Sunni Muslim. That's why I'm riding with Nathaniel on this one.
All right,
Um,
I hear you.
he's my tandem partner too, as you know.
Well, I know now.
So y'all better get ready, man. We got jihad coming.
Well, listen, man. Well, listen. Let me get past this. Let me get past this tandem debate, and then hopefully at that point, the belts will be in our hands. And then once the belt is in our hands, then we see who we have to deal with after that point.
What's your debate topic again, brother?
The debate topic is Gnosticism versus Kemetism. Which one is more practical in 2026? That's our tandem debate topic. So we have to show the practicality of the Kemetic understanding, the modern Kemetic.
And the lack of practicality on the other side. Are you affirmative or negative?
Well,
Affirmative.
Clearly, I think that Kemetic spirituality is practical. So it's me and Steve are the affirmative on this one.
Okay.
So, and we're sharing responsibility. He's doing the opening round, the chin check session. I'm gonna do the introduction, the rebuttal, and the closing. So I think he's taking a lot of pressure off of me. I think he's taking a lot of pressure off me by doing the chin check, because I wouldn't be good at that.
Putting Brother Steve on the chin check, because he good with that.
Yeah, man. And we're going up against Raymo, Esoteric Bantu, and Dwayne Darkness. So, and those are two people that Dwayne is new, so I don't think Haru would be familiar with him.
No, I seen him in the back chat a couple of times.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any debate history on this channel. He's debated before, but I don't think he's ever debated. I don't think he's ever debated anything about Kemet. He mostly has beef with other Christians, because I guess he doesn't think Gnosticism is Christianity. I don't even know if they think that. I don't know. I'm not even sure if they consider themselves Christians.
I know Dwayne. Like, trust me, bro. Like, don't underestimate him. He's already concerned with him. So.
I don't think he's familiar enough with the Kemetic text to have that argument. Okay. I don't think that he is. I don't think Rainbow's familiar enough with the Kemetic text either. He hasn't shown me that, but that doesn't. He hasn't shown me that, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't know.
Right.
He's very familiar with Gnosticism. I know that. He's very familiar. Raymond's very familiar and passionate about Gnosticism. I know he knows that. But I don't know how much he knows, how much they know about Kemet. So we'll see when we get into the debate.
And we got some questions down there in the comments, I think.
Yeah, let me hold on 1 second. I'm gonna get to these comments, questions, so we can try to best answer them. And I do want to bring them up on the screen so that we can, highlight that, because I appreciate the interaction from any viewer that comes on, whether it's now or even later. Heavy Hitters is back on, and we getting ready to make some things happen with NG, with the Paradigm Shift TV 314 family, and also the Worldview Wars debate league, which is still part of the trio. I like to call it the trio.
We got some good things, and we got some good debates coming up. We got a lot coming up between now and the end of September.
We do, brother. Like, so for instance, coming off this weekend, we coming up on the last argument standard.
Yes.
And that's going to bring us into right into debate mania season, because there's some debates right in between that. It's really going to set the tone for the new rankings for September.
Right.
So y'all stay tuned. And the power rankings is getting ready to change. Like I always tell you,
so next
come to y'all.
So next weekend, next, I think it's next Sunday, we got Steve, Mr. Cab versus Big Hemi, and that's a title match, correct?
Yes, that is for the social media championship.
Right.
So hold on. My wife asked a question, and she asked me to go up in the chat. And she was asking, okay, so she asked this question. So let me add this to the screen. Y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
So do y'all either one of y'all want to weigh in on that? Because I don't want to steal the thunder.
Nathaniel, that's a question for you.
Okay, so are you talking about is she talking about the biblical manuscripts?
No. Well, let me say this. Let me be specific. Because I don't want people to get off track. This show is actually dealing with Islam. Where we bring Christianity into it, or even Judaism, is that they still fall under the same one God.
Okay, so if we speaking about the NOI, they can't really change the Quran, right? And so what they do is they play with the translation of the Quran, right? So where the Quran uses the word messenger, they apply that to Elijah Poole. But the problem for them is that the Arabic is exactly the same. So somebody who understands the Arabic, which by the way is one of their beliefs, that Arabic is the original language of the black man. So it baffles my mind why they never take the time to learn it.
Right.
Even a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I get somebody who remembers phrases, or you know what I mean, but like, you know, coming from my perspective as an Orthodox Muslim, like, you know, we can't even pray without knowing some Quran, right? So you have to know some of it too, right? And so at some point, like you know, you following the text and you're just you know, reinterpreting a translation basically. So speaking with the NOI, that's basically what they do, is they retranslate a translation to make it mean whatever they want. And you'll usually see that in the verses that they pick. They never read verses in context. It'll always be like sort of 230 or sort of 62 and 2, or you know, they'll use different verses, and it won't and they'll bounce from verse to verse. And they never really explain what the verses mean. But when they come across an Orthodox Muslim that maybe perhaps know those verses, then suddenly, you know, there's a contradiction there. Because we know, as Orthodox Muslims, we know that when the Quran uses the word messenger, it means prophet. They know and they believe that Elijah Muhammad is not a prophet. So if those passages are talking about prophets, then it can't be talking about Elijah Muhammad, who claims to not be a prophet.
Right.
but the translation says messenger. So I call it a mailman. Like like he carrying a letter for somebody or something. I don't know how they bring that to that point
Well,
just off of a single verse.
they say he's a messenger of Allah in the flesh. The one
Okay,
who
well,
they
no,
call
what
Master Farad knows.
Farad is Allah in the flesh, and Elijah Muhammad is supposedly a messenger of God. The problem with that is whenever the Quran uses that title, it's talking about a prophet. It's never talking about some regular crop share, a sharecropper that can barely read. It's not talking about that.
Well,
Right.
they don't see it that way, and it's
I mean,
understandable
but
based
okay,
on their
so then that
paradigm.
okay, so listen, it's not a question. It's not even a question of belief, Jose. Here's the problem. It's actually what the Quran says it is.
Yeah, listen. I'm one who always argue that you should never ever deal with something and you don't have the original text to be able to compare and
Thank you.
contrast. So I
And
don't have no beef with that, and I try my
right.
best to do
Okay,
that.
so
Although I'm
it
not a
would be the
speaker of the
same
language.
thing. It would be the same thing. It would be the same thing I would ask of the Hebrew Israelites, right? So if you're a Hebrew Israelite and you don't really know no Hebrew, that could be
Well,
a
that's
problem.
agreed.
If you come across somebody who knows Hebrew, then you might be in trouble, right? Because your interpretation of the translation ain't going to be what the book actually says, and that person can then. That's basically my whole argument against the brother
I,
is like, we going by the book or we not going by the book. If you're not
I,
going by the book, then don't call yourself a Muslim. Just call yourself the FOI. You know what I mean?
I can agree with that, but in this community, we have a problem with people who don't know the language, and sometimes when they learn the language or they think they know the language, you have a problem with this preconceived bias. Just like when people who are Hebrew Israelites or Muslims start to study Kemet and other things now, what they're doing is they're bringing in their own biases and not looking at what the text actually say. They're simply saying when they see something that looks like this is that, and the history doesn't always agree. And therein lies a whole argument that cannot fly historically, just as you say. If you're reading the text and the text says something, you can't now add your own thing onto the text and then say
Right,
the text says that. I agree with you. But once
right.
again, when you're
Because it
dealing with
changes.
religion, you have this idea that once I believe something, I can slap it in there. And now that I believe it, that makes it so. That's the problem with being a believer sometimes.
Well,
Your belief,
we're gonna have
sometimes belief takes
scorecards,
over
so
people's common sense.
we're
A lot of
gonna
times
have
belief takes.
scorecards at the debate, hopefully. So
I'm with you.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be
But
scorecard.
but as an outsider, people's beliefs tend to take over their common sense and their
yeah,
understanding in some
I
cases.
definitely get what you're saying, and they rely heavily on that commentary, right? So there's gonna be a lot of
Right.
pamphlets from the 1960s, and
Correct.
these grocery stores was open in the 1960s, you know. But like I said, the argument is going to stem around the core belief that they believe Farad is Allah in the flesh, and I don't think he can prove that from the text.
Well,
Um,
I would
I don't,
agree that he would have a hard time proving it.
it's not possible. Like it's not. You know what I mean? Farad's
I would
not
agree. I
mentioned.
would agree that you definitely that's something that you definitely could not prove
No,
at all.
and so that's going to be the difficulty for him, I think.
But here's what
I
I
know.
respect: if a person tells me they believe something, then I can't argue people's belief because belief is not to be proven or disproven. It's just something that you have within yourself that you think is your personal truth. I can't argue anyone's belief in a law
Right. I get what you're saying, but now when you
because it
say a
doesn't have
book,
to be proven.
when you say a book says something that it doesn't say, now we can argue about that.
No, and I do it all the time,
There you
and that's
go.
what I get in trouble for.
And now that it dawned on me what you're saying, yeah, y'all go heavily by your text, right?
But well, you should go by the text because the text is something that's written down for us who was not ingratiated into the lifestyle, as opposed to being people who your whole life and for thousands of years you've been hearing something. So this is why a lot of people in ancient Kemet didn't need to read, because they were already ingratiated with the understanding based on oral tradition. But now in 2026, I'm happy that they developed writing so we can show what our ancestors wrote, whereas other people sometimes heavily rely going back simply on oral tradition. And a lot of that gets me mad because people try to take Mecca back to the origin of African people, and you can't do that. It didn't exist in African oral tradition. And a lot of people try to braid that into their
You mean, well, hold on.
to
You
say
mean
that.
Mecca? You mean the city of Mecca?
What I'm saying is this: a lot of people try to take that back and mix that in with their African oral tradition to say that that was a part of their tradition, and you can't do that. It didn't
Well, well,
exist
well.
in ancient
The
Africa.
mother Hagar. I think she was Ethiopian, right?
No, she
Was
was
she
actually
Ethiopian or Egyptian?
she was Kemetic. They said that she was a servant who slept with Abraham, and that gave birth.
Nah, that was according to the
Yeah.
Bible. That was his wife. According
No,
to
no,
the
no, no,
Bible,
no,
he
no, no.
married.
Hagar was a handmaiden.
No,
Did
no,
he
no.
marry her?
I'll show you. I'll show you. Listen, according to the Bible, we can go in the back chat later. I'll show you the verse.
So he married her.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Abraham made her his wife. That's what the book says in Genesis.
Well, okay, okay,
Yes,
I
sir.
will.
And let's not forget that the angel of the Lord, Malach Yahweh, comes to Hagar first before he comes to Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
So the logos, according to the Christians now in the Greek, this is the logos that's coming to Hagar first and naming her son Ishmael, who the Prophet Muhammad SAW says he's a descendant of.
They do say that, and this
Right?
is another reason why I think you shouldn't fight, because you're
No, we're
basically
not. We
saying that.
listen, bro. We listen, bro. Me and the brother is not going to fight.
No, 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 no. I'm not talking about you guys, but I'm saying if these people all over the world are adopting this religion and then saying I'm gonna unalive my Jewish brothers, then there's something wrong with that, because the book tells you
What?
that's your brother, and you should have some love for your brother. Keep on the
Well,
war.
one of the things I do like about the Quran, there is there's a time for war, and during that time, I don't think there should be I don't think there should be a dispute about sometimes you have to go to war. I don't think you should be going out starting wars with people on purpose for resources or what have you.
Well, I'll
You know
say
what I mean?
this: in ancient Kemet, they definitely had the understanding your enemy was your enemy, and enemy didn't deserve any mercy.
Oh no, that and
So
Islam
they
has
definitely
the
did
same
that.
understanding.
They definitely for
Jose,
sure
you
was like,
keep
yo,
saying that, man.
yes, yes.
Jose, you keep saying that. Show me the text.
That
Okay,
says what?
You keep saying
so
that. We was just talking about this
The
yesterday.
text show you. The text show you that once you
No,
were
that
the
showed
enemy.
that showed modern day reinterpretation.
No,
Where
no, no,
does it
no.
say that in Kemetic writing?
The text mentions spiting your enemy. The text mentioned cutting off hands after they die, and the understanding of them doing that was so in the afterlife, if you ran into them, they could not fight you. It's a disrespect to dismember a body. The people of ancient Kemet did not dismember their dead. It's a disrespect. That's like saying go to hell and pissing on someone's grave when you dismember them, because you're supposed to go into the afterlife whole.
right, if you don't have those parts when you go into the afterlife, you don't have them in the afterlife, right?
Right. And they also said they believe that
So
if these people made it into the afterlife, they
That's
wouldn't be
kind
able
of
to
why they
fight.
drew the hieroglyphs. They always show their limbs from the side, right?
Well,
well, let
I'm
me
not
ask
sure
you
about
this.
that,
Let me ask you this
but I know
question.
they didn't dismember. If they dismembered you, that was a sign of disrespect. And scholars also say they did it because if they happened to run into the afterlife, you wouldn't be able to fight with one hand. So all of that was a part of it. And they also showed to them spiting their enemies. So we understand that they didn't have any mercy for their enemies. The text tell you that. And if you was with him, you was with him. He treated you well. You went and fought for him. The text say you were rewarded very well. If you built monuments and you helped build up the community, you were rewarded very well. As someone who was next to then the suit, you became special. So he rewarded those who did their hard work. He was not a tyrant who ran around murdering everybody mercilessly and everybody was poor and broke. And they had people with whips on their backs building monuments. That's not true. That's absolutely untrue. They showed that they were compensated and they were happy to do it because they were very, what we would call patriotic in their understanding. I'm building this for my community. I'm building this for my leader, whom I respect, who had all more authority to say this and say that. And that's why Kemet worked, because even if one in the suit was tripping, his predecessor would come back and say, "Nah, we can't have that." Because the psychology behind that is, if you treat someone a certain way, they will start to behave that way. If you understand what I'm saying, Nathaniel. If you treat a
Right.
person as divine, they have no choice but to wake up every morning and be reminded that they are divine and they have a responsibility to people. And that's a heavy burden when you have to wake up. You're not just signing papers now. People are looking at you and bowing down to you and telling you all these great things, and you have to live up to that. It affects you psychologically when you walk around every day and people treat you so highly. That makes you think this is a big responsibility. It's not just about this crown and all this gold I have on. These people look to me for everything, and if I disappoint them, what kind of person would that make me? And that shows that our ancestors understood psychology, because that's a psychological plot.
Well, we gonna see. We gonna see what's up with your tandem debate you got coming. What's going on with the debate you got going on with Brother Ramos?
Um, that's one debate I have to schedule. Then I have a debate with Easy Bands. Then I have a debate at the end of September with one of Haru's people, Mars John.
Man, you busy, bro.
I told you that. That's why I be careful. I can't challenge nobody else. I can't.
You out here. You out here taking putting in challenges.
Well, it's too late now, and they wrote me into the last one too. In the back chat, they wrote me into that last one. So that's gonna be my last debate for a while. Until after.
No, we didn't rope you
so
in. We didn't rope you in that one, bro. What I
You
said
did.
was is that we was waiting on PJ Line to see if he was going to respond, and he never really responded. And as we got into the conversation, you said that you would challenge Marjan,
Well.
and I got the actual thumbnail right now.
Well, I'm not gonna say.
Uh,
When I say wrote me, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing because
no,
I'm
no,
I'm
no,
really
no.
do- I'm doing it.
I'm not
I'm
saying
doing
it
it for the
is.
culture. I don't want the brother. I don't want the brother to come in and then he's sitting down and he has nobody to actually debate. So I'm really
Well,
doing
no,
this
no, no, no,
for the
no.
culture.
Well, watch this though, bro. And we appreciate that. Both of y'all need the belt. Both of y'all need the base under y'all belt. Here's the thing, though.
Mhm.
Don't sleep on Morris John. I'm telling you, he's a heavy hitter, bruh.
I'm not
I don't
sleeping
sleep
on
on
him.
nobody. Period.
But you got to
That's
think in
what
your
channel
mind
you
that
on right now. It's the Heavy Hitters Debate League. You on the channel right now.
well, listen, I'm not. I know the brother is not somebody to be slept on because he's a heavy hitter. So I know that. So we're
He
gonna
just
see how this debate works out.
he just doesn't have any live experience. But trust me, man. Me and this brother
Well,
been
I got.
beating up Hebrews for me and this brother been beating up Hebrews for a decade.
Well, well, I know how it feels when you want to debate and you have to wait. So I'm just saying, let's go ahead and do it. Win, lose or draw,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a good debate, and I could, and fortunately, I can go in with hopefully, I will go in with no losses under my belt. Hopefully, that's so today, but by that time, I don't know. So hopefully, I could go in with at least 1 to 2 wins under my belt before I reach there.
Who them two
Try to
Because
wins
right now
gonna
I'm
be? The
lucky.
tandem debate and Ramos.
Yeah, but the tandem debate is what I'm focusing on now. So now,
Okay.
if we win the belts now, they're gonna have a whole slew of challenges coming after that. But I still have 2 other debates that I have to arrange probably before Marjan. How am I gonna do that? I don't know.
Yeah, because listen. Pan and Theo is not playing. I'm gonna tell
I
y'all
know.
that right now. Pan
I
and
know that.
Theo is not playing. They coming in and they coming in. Look, they come. Listen, these guys is in here. They taking mental notes of everything. You know what I'm saying? Much like
Right.
I'm doing.
And they and I found this out recently
I know how
that
to
they
beat all of
are
y'all. I
that
know how
they
to beat
are
all of y'all.
that they are the bar
Me and,
reloaded.
me, and, me, and, me me and Nathaniel about to run through y'all. Watch.
You know, I didn't know this until I talked to Honey the other day. They are the tag team champions on the bar reloaded. So they actually have
Mm,
belts in their league. I didn't even know that.
see,
So they have
see.
You know,
belts
we got
already.
I think we got some more questions down. Somebody asked if it's in Arabic. I think she's talking about the Quran. If it's in Arabic, how do you understand the scriptures? I believe. Can we pull that comment up or that
Just
question?
learn Arabic.
Where's let me hold on. Let me get to the new comments. My bad.
Oh, hey man. Brother Nathaniel, Brother Haru, it's been great. But when you get old like me, you start to fall asleep on every damn thing. So I'll talk to you guys later, right? I got you in my
All right.
Rolodex for sure. So anytime you go live, I should get the notification, right?
All right.
So, my brother, do what you do. Do your best in that debate, but I'm the middleman in the debate.
Yes, sir.
So,
Peace and blessings, bro.
all right. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings, Haru.
This
All right.
one. So, walaikum salam, man, brother. So here's a question here. I guess we're gonna get to the Q&A before we get off because we've been on for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got to work tonight. I got to be at work at 3:30 in the morning. Good thing I took a nap earlier, like I always do. But let's get to some of these questions. These questions is from this question is from my wife actually, and
Mm-hmm.
she said, "What is the purest form of ideology in your opinion?" The purest form of Islam is Sunni Islam. It's Orthodox Islam, hands down.
It's the one that follows the
And I
Prophet
challenge
Muhammad
anybody to
sallallahu alaihi
put that in
wasallam.
a chat GPT, Google it. Islam is Sunni Islam.
Yeah, those would be the ones that follow the practices of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly.
That's right. That's right.
So there won't be
Yeah,
there won't be there won't
you're
be much
time.
deviation, and you usually can tell those apart from less fundamental Muslims, right? So I'm speaking for myself. Like I find my day wrapped around what I'm doing concerning Islam, right? So things I do is based around what
Mm,
times I pray, or you know what I mean, because it's so
right.
it's so heavily it's practice. It's not just something like how they was saying something on the channel the other day about being a practitioner. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so it's something that's the sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him, is something that's practiced in the sunnah. So it's not much
Absolutely.
deviation.
Absolutely. Like I said, I was raised up in Islam, and I can tell you right now, um, being a Muslim is a lifestyle. It should be life changing for you. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
if you're actually a real practitioner, it will change your life. It's gonna keep you in check because listen, you need to be ready for prayer 5 times a day. So you ain't got time to be getting high, getting drunk, none of that stuff.
right, right.
You ain't got time for that. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, um, I could do a whole presentation on how Islam will change anyone's life for the good, for the better.
Right.
But what I don't want people to do is get caught up on what they read on TV and they look at the extremists that take Sharia law completely out of hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not a true representation of Islam to me, and neither is the NOI. That's why I wanted to do this show because I'm sick of these NOI guys. You guys are not even real Muslims.
Well, they definitely misled.
Yeah,
And
most majority of them don't even speak a word of Arabic. So therefore, this is getting to the next question that my wife put out there. That most majority of them don't even speak a lick of Arabic, so therefore they can't even pray. So how are they even Muslims? We open our prayer with the opening, which is Al-Fatiha, right?
right.
Most of our prayer is the recital.
So speaking about learning Arabic, I didn't know a lick of Arabic when I first became Muslim,
Hmm.
and so what I would do is I would write down the phonetics. You know, some Qur'ans used to have like the phonetics, and I would write down and learn how to pronounce. But then when I got into the masjid around other Arab speaking brothers, and that's when I started learning the Quran. Yeah, right. So
Exactly.
there's an actual science to the recitation of Quran. Like it's more than just saying the words. It's a certain way they're said.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so once you start learning that, it and it's not you would think that it's difficult, but it's not as difficult as you would think. Like you can a person can
No.
start small with a few words, and before you realize it, you're saying 20 or 30% of the Quran just by learning a few words.
You're
So
right. You're right. And
because
what you
it's
also have to learn is that there's also like with and much of the Semitic languages, you have a masculine way of saying things, and then you have a feminine way of saying things,
right,
depending in the context that you're saying it. You know what I'm saying? So like let's just choose Hebrew out of this, right? If you're talking about a teacher, a female teacher would be uh, more or moro, right?
right.
Hold on. And then your male would be the male teacher would be more. You know what I mean? And I think I confused that though because it's more, moro, and then plural would be. I think plural is borot.
But
I could be
another
wrong.
thing is in Islam, they have madrasa or like Quran school. So a lot of parents, especially in
Right.
Muslim countries, their children, 10 years old, they memorize Quran. They memorize the entire Quran. They have certificates, saying what Qur'an they memorized it in, and it's like a whole certified thing. So the Quran is not, a lot of people get intimidated because it's another language, but it's not one of those things that you can't learn. And the English translation of Quran that most people read because they can't really speak the Arabic is just a translation. So you're not, and I will say this, you're not really getting the exact meaning, of or the impact of what the Arabic is actually saying until you start learning the Arabic. So I will say that much. You do need to learn. So and that's what again blows my mind about the Nation of Islam is that nobody took the time to learn like it's 2026 now. Nobody's holding black people back from learning another language. Nobody's saying we can't read or we can't vote or we can't sit at a coffee counter and none of that's happening. So we can learn the
That's
Arabic.
what
It's not really hard.
that's that's what I'm saying, brother. And I'm glad you made that point right there. Like this ain't Jim Crow era.
Right.
Everything is wide open for y'all, my black brothers and sisters. You got to stop using a white man as a crutch for your ignorance. You don't know about something because you just didn't inquire. That's the bottom line.
Well, if something, in this case, dealing with NOI, if something is telling you to stay away from something, ask yourself why.
Right.
If that particular group is telling you, for example, if I was Muslim and there was a command that I couldn't read the Bible, I couldn't read the Torah, right? Then I would see that as problematic.
Right.
You know,
I would
almost
too, especially when you didn't put time into it. Like you've been part of the NOI for over a year and you still don't know a lick of Arabic. All you know is Assalamu alaikum, right? Wa
Right.
alaikum salam. That's all you know. You can't recite the Quran. You don't even recognize what you're reading when you open the Quran.
Well, he
You're just used to the
recognizes the
English language.
translation, and so
Right. That's it.
like I was saying before, it's just it's a semantic gerrymander. Like, okay, so we'll take the word messenger, we'll apply that to Elijah Poole or Elijah Muhammad, and without really knowing the context of what's being said.
Right.
And then
Right.
if somebody comes along that knows the Arabic, then we'll just say, oh, well, you think you know the Arabic, and and we don't know the Arabic because we were stripped of our language. Well, the language is out there today. We don't have to be stripped, right?
Right.
And so at some point, we got to get over. I think a lot of it is fear. You're in this thing, and this is what you believe, and so it could be fearful. Like if I learn something that I disagree with, but one should never. You should never be in a position where you don't question. Even I'm a Muslim, and I read the Quran every day, and I got questions every day.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So it's not one of those things where you have to be a blind follower. Like, and if you're in a group where you're blind following, that's probably not a good religion to be in. It's probably not a religion at all. It's probably a cult. Especially if you're paying dues and you got a newspaper sale quota and like right. So it's
Yeah.
probably not.
I agree, brother.
Yeah, like when and you got somebody sitting at the top and they got all the special knowledge. Whatever they say go. They say who the hypocrites are, right? They say who the ones you kill and the ones you leave alive. Like they're the only ones deciding that. Like, it's kind of Joseph Smithy, Jim Jones kind of.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What's the other one? David Koresh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they all
got the
come with the
all.
same claim. We got some special knowledge from Jesus or from God that nobody else has. We're the only one allowed to have mates. Everybody else can't have mates anymore. Whatever their ridiculous claim is, and it's always some special knowledge that they got from God that nobody else can confirm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not a confirmation somewhere else. Right. So it's not something that you can see manifest in front of you. It's just whatever they say goes.
For sure.
So yeah.
And you know what? Before we conclude, though, I want to say this, bro. I'm glad that you did and you were able to join us live because you touched on a lot of points that has always been circling in my head when it concerning the NOI and what I knew Islam to be. And it's just good to know that there's other people that see this stuff and see right through it. You know what I mean? As opposed to someone that says, "Well, wait a minute, they are real Muslims and whatever." No, man, they're Muslims and they're on account of what they think Islam is. They're not Muslims when it really comes down to what true Islam is. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And so at the end of the day,
They're professing Muslims, but
I'm
they're
glad
not acting as Muslims.
exactly. So yes, I'm glad that we were able to establish that distinction tonight. It's a difference. The real difference is one who submits to the will of Allah, as opposed to one who submits to the will of fraud Muhammad and his
Right.
little punk ass messenger.
Right.
And we got to keep it straight. I'm not trying to disrespect nobody like that, but I'm saying at the end of the day, we got to keep it straight, man. I'm tired of these guys getting on here talking junk. They all over TikTok, whatever. Y'all numbers is dwindling.
Right.
Dwindling. I could pick apart their doctrine easily.
Well, in this
And
case, I'm
if we were to
gonna
sit
try to
down,
keep it as simple as possible. If it turned into anything else, I'll be prepared for it. But yeah, I really just want Brother Khalil to understand that you need to worship one God and one God alone. If you're gonna say you're Muslim, you know, like I said earlier, people's belief is their own belief. I'm not here to tell people what to believe, but if you're gonna be going around saying you're Muslim, at least learn how to be a Muslim. It's more than just saying it with your mouth and then, you know, not really practicing Islam at all.
yes, sir. My bad, bro.
Oh no, it's all good.
No, I got confused in two different conversations real quick. But we listen, man. I already see or foresee your debate with Khalil Shabazz. I see this as complete destruction. Good thing I'm not a judge because I'm completely biased on this one. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Uh,
Appreciate it.
I, I rock with you to the fullest on this, man. Because like you really stand on Islam, bro, and that's one thing that I love about it is that we're not dealing with somebody just pretending now. You know what I mean? Like you're a real practitioner of Islam, and it's just good to know that somebody uh, actually sees the NOI the way I see it. This is nonsense.
Yeah.
A
Well, it's
lot, a
lots
lot
of
of it's
lot,
nonsense.
lot of Muslim brothers see it that way. It's like I said, it's really a spinoff of Islam, and like we were saying earlier, not to knock some of the good things that the Nation of Islam actually did for the black community. I want to make that clear that this debate is really a matter of theology between me and another person who claims to be Muslim, and we have a difference of opinion. The difference of opinion is something that should never be. If you're a Muslim, it should never be a problem with. Right? We should always be able to believe that Allah is one God. He's not a man. He's not begotten, nor does he begot. Right? And we need to believe. If we're saying we're Muslim, that's what we believe.
Right.
So that
Well, see,
outside of that, like I
and
don't disagree
that,
with a lot of things that they did. There's some things I disagree with, but the vast majority of things that they did for the black community, I don't disagree
right. Don't get me wrong. I will absolutely beat them up for everything they've done for the black community. But I'm gonna hold them to what they proclaim to be. You know what I mean? You are a
with. Right.
Muslim. Wait a minute. You a Muslim that don't speak any Arabic? Any? And on top of that, you are calling this white boy your God.
And master.
How can that be? Yeah, God and master, bro. Like, look, oh my
Yeah,
God.
they call him master. They call him Master Farad. I mean, at the very least,
Yeah.
they could say he's mixed, but according to his arrest records, he's definitely Caucasian. So, and I'll be bringing that information along with. Um, it's easily accessible online. You can look it up, and of course the response will just be that the white devil made it all up, but it's historical record as far as I'm concerned. So it's gonna be hard to argue that that's not him when it says it says his name and they got his fingerprints and everything else. So it's that part for me that when I didn't know that, by the way, before I started studying on the subject. And like I said, I didn't know much about the Nation of Islam anyway. But when I started studying that and I found that out, I was just like, whoa, like, wait a minute. And they call him master and like, yeah, nah. So
Man.
yeah.
Yeah, you think about the time frame when think about the time frame this was coined, right? You have to look at the mentality of the people of that time.
Yeah, right around the depression.
Specific, yeah, specifically Elijah Poole. who later became Elijah Muhammad. But you know what I'm saying? You have to look at the mentality of those people. For them to call this guy master,
Right. Well,
come on,
he
man. You look at the terminology at the time.
well, at that time there was a lot of black messiahs coming up. People claiming to be prophets and gods, and right. So that it was that time. Imagine people all out of work. You can't feed your family because there's no jobs. So this is during the Great Depression. The 30s and the 40s. This is during the Depression. So black folks are struggling, and then you have Jim Crow and everything else. So education levels aren't that high. So a person come to you and teach you pride in yourself and pride in being black, which was a good thing.
Right.
And then they mix in it a couple of other things that may not be true, which is not so good. Right? Because now our community is not struggling from those same things. We are in a way. I'm not saying Jim Crow disappeared, by the way. I'm just saying it's not, we're not limited to the way we was before. Like we can actually run things now. And so at the very least, we can at least be dutiful enough to the Quran to study it. Right? Because if you say you're a Muslim, then it should be information that you want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like it shouldn't just be a pamphlet or a newspaper clipping. Right? It should be something that you immerse yourself in as a Muslim. I know I do. I can't speak for the NOI, but I know it's billions of Muslims on the planet that the Quran is a part of their life. It's something they carry with them, not physically. They carry it in their chest and their heart. You can go to another Muslim person's house and hear them playing Quran in the background and say, "Oh, that's Surah so and so," right? So, like, you know what I mean? So it's for me as a Orthodox Muslim, it's a whole different outlook of the text. It's not something that I whip out whenever these couple of verses when I want to prove a point, right? So it's something that I'm actually trying to apply in my life, and I think that's really the difficult part for a lot of the NOI is and I've heard them say that, like, oh, we have to learn our prayers in Arabic. Well, yeah, the Bible that they quote so much, it says faith without works is dead. So you're gonna have to put in some work, man.
Absolutely, absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And trust me, once they start their journey on learning Arabic, it's really not that hard, bro.
No.
At first it's gonna seem that way, but once you understand like the basics, you'll get it.
Right.
You'll get it.
Right. It's not that.
Yeah,
if you just take the time, and like I said, like, overwhelm yourself, and maybe you learn a couple of words a day.
Right.
Before long, you'll realize, you'll start recognizing those words. And you might not be fluent in Arabic, but when it comes to the Quran, you start to recognize, passages when you hear them. Right. So that's just my opinion on it. I'm looking forward to the debate on September the 19th on Paradigm Shift. Feel free to come out and watch me debate this Nation of Islam minister. Let's see if he can defend his position. He'll be in the affirmative. So let's see if he can defend that position with the Quran that he says he believes in.
Yeah, I can't wait for that debate. That debate night, I will be locked in. So we're gonna definitely tune in to that debate. I'm probably gonna try to stream it. We're here on Heavy Hitters Debate League as well. I have been trying to run some promotion for you, brother.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm getting ready to do, I'm gonna let you in on it too, is that I'm getting ready to open up my TikTok, and it's gonna be centered just for our debates and all of that. So whether it's over here on Heavy Hitters Debate League, Worldview Wars, or Paradigm Shift, I mean, the three is the same. So, you know, most of these shows are all going to be tied together. We're going to always have a stream together. So, I think that this is going to be a good look for the upcoming debate. I look for both of y'all brothers actually bringing the thunder because I'm not going to sleep on Khalil. I
Nah,
just know that I just know he got an uphill battle, man, with the knowledge I know. So,
right.
you know, at the end of the day, I really appreciate you coming over here, brother, and doing the show with me. This was absolutely dope. You know what I'm saying? A lot of good information was shared, and I think people get a better understanding of the difference between the NOI and Orthodox Sunni Islam.
Right. Well,
Two
thank you for
completely
having me.
things.
It was a pleasure
Absolutely,
being
bro. And we look forward to you coming over here too. So this is home too, brother.
here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're gonna be hosting a lot of different debates over here, a lot of uh different caliber debates. Like we'll have different tournaments and things like that. And one thing that's coming up really good is for you guys. It's like for a lot of you debaters, we getting ready to have we getting ready to have the merchandise out here where you can rep your own brand, your own name. People that rock
Mm,
with you, they could buy your t-shirts, hats, and shit like that. You feel me?
right. Let's go.
And at the same time, they supporting the platform. So I'm not gonna hold you too much longer. Like I said earlier, I got to be at work at 3:30 in the morning.
All
My
right,
wife
brother.
just come in, so I do want to spend a little bit of time with her before I lay down and
Right.
get on back up for work. But again, I do appreciate you, brother, for coming over here and breaking
Oh,
this
no
thing
problem.
down.
No problem. Thanks for having me, bro.
Yes, sir. Hey, so I want to give a big shout out to everybody in the chat. Big shout out to everybody that tuned in and those that will tune in, at a future time. Big piece of y'all. Big shout out. Heavy hitter style. We out.